I, 43 male, have been married to Brenda, 44 male, for the last 8 years. We chose to be child-free from the start. No regrets on that front. We liked the freedom. Go on a trip whenever you want. Go for dates, money to save, and 0 diapers. I'm a mechanical engineer at a car factory. I make engines and transmissions. It's an ugly job that dirties the hands and clothes, but I love it. I consider it to be a real job. Brenda's is in sales, in the fashion world, the exact opposite of me. She's quick with people, reads a room, knows what shade is in, and what phrase will stick with a buyer. She talks to people, and I talk to metal and torque wrenches. Sometimes I joke that she's paid to write emails and talk to people. We had a comfortable life until now. No substantial mortgage. We live in an ancestral house. My parents handed it to me when they moved it to the countryside to live on the farm. Every few months we visit them, sleep under the stars, grow food, mug out stalls, bring back truckloads of veggies, eggs, fresh milk, and yogurt. Life was simple. They say happy days don't last long. Neither did mine. About a year ago, Brenda met a new friend at the gym, Jackie. She had just moved to the city. She's in her late 40s, but acts youngish, wears bright clothes, and carries this loud aura. Brenda clicked with her immediately and introduced her to the social circle. Most of Brenda's friends didn't warm up to Jackie. They sidelined her after a few meetings, but Brenda stuck. I met Jackie a few times with Brenda, invited her friends for brunch and dinners, but she was no more than background noise to me. Brenda's other friends, who have been with her for a long time, are decent women, and I like having them in my house. Cordial bond with all of them, but Jackie was different. She's a crude sense of humor, and just a very unfriendly vibe. Brenda was very fascinated by her attitude. She would come home and tell me very small thing about Jackie, her retirement plan, her life principles, and her strange taste in music. No evident red flag so far. I smiled and said the right things because that's what you do when your wife gives you a play-by-play of her life. I considered it a good thing that my wife was sharing every thought with me. However, there were instances when I asked Brenda to be careful and not get swayed away by someone else's ideologies. Over the last few months, her Jackie talks have reduced significantly. I thought it was a natural fading of friendship. I didn't ask her about it. Was glad to see that she was distancing herself from Jackie. In actual, she wasn't. She just didn't share it with me to avoid judgment. Fast forward to 2 weeks ago. I was making dinner, and she came and stood near the counter. I asked what's up, and she goes, "I was wondering what it would be like to have an open marriage." I laughed. It came out automatically, like a reflex. I took it as her passing thought. Those kinds of questions, what if I die or the world ends tomorrow? I smirked. Want to try? And chuckled, expecting her to laugh. She didn't. She was just staring at me and let it out. "I was serious about trying this." I dropped everything and went to her to ask, why would we want that? We are happily married, have a stable life, everything is fine. Why change it? She gave a patient smile and goes, "You've met Jackie, right? Have you seen her glow? She's 48 but looks 30 because of all the love and happiness she's getting from people around her. She and her husband practice polyamory. They're thriving and happier. Why not give it a try?" Poly what? I've heard the word floating around on lazy news articles. I'm always 5 degrees away from my life. I consider those to be mermaid kind of thing, which only existed in stories. Before you guys flip out, let me admit, I'm an old school guy. I know just 2 relationship terms, casual and serious. That's the whole shelf. Brenda works with people half her age. Gen Zs or whatever they call it these days. She knows the vocabs. My head spins when she explains concepts like benching and breadcrumbing. I swear I had no idea until she told me about it. So when she threw this poly thing at me, I did what everyone else does now. Googled it. Read an article here and there. The more I read, the more my stomach tightened. It wasn't just the sex. It was a whole shift in how people measure commitment, finding joy in your partner's happiness with someone else. People described schedules, emotional check-ins, rules, and jealousy management like some corporate training. I read testimonials of relationships that didn't collapse and of relationships that crashed and burned spectacularly. It felt like reading about a different species. Out of curiosity, I asked her how's the setup for Jackie and her husband. She got giddy and blabbered. Jackie's husband also dates, has a steady partner plus a casual lover. Jackie has 2 boyfriends and of course her husband. They all hang out together sometimes. There are ground rules and aftercare. They all tell each other when they sleep with someone else. There's honesty, consent, no lying, and everyone knows everyone. It's an emotional network. You can love more than one person. Marriage is paperwork to protect the assets and the kids. It doesn't box you. It blew my mind. Honestly, I was amused with the concept and laughed in between. Brenda thought I was buying her idea. After listening to the whole bit, I smirked and said, "Well, good for Jackie," and moved on. Brenda followed me like a toddler and was like, "So, what do you say?" I was like, "Nothing." She was like, "You okay trying this out?" I snapped, "No, I don't want to get into this dirty mess." She got pale and said, "But you were interested in knowing about it?" I said I was inquisitive to know what's going on, but not interested in getting into it. She counted all the good things it brought in Jackie's life, physical and mental wellness stuff. She pushed, "Come on, try it once. Just experiment. It could be exciting. Maybe our marriage needs something new. We've been comfortable for too long. Don't you want to feel thrill?" I noticed a pattern in what she was saying. She had perhaps internalized a script from Jackie and her quick read on modern culture. Comfort breeds complacency. I tried to counter that. I believe in the kind of marriage that shows up at 5 a.m. when the car won't start and at the hospital when someone needs stitches. I used engine metaphors because it's what I know. A car doesn't run better if you throw in parts from a second car. You tune what's already there. You don't strip the frame. That seemed to annoy her. She said I was being rigid, boring, and stuck. She kept returning to the idea of experiment. I am by nature practical. I like fixed things. Maybe that makes me simple. I wanted stability like my parents. Simple people. Married for 50 years. They had fights, loud ones, then silences, then work in the garden, and then a long, steady trudge. I admired the steadiness. I didn't want to be the man who tossed it for novelty. That's why I never chased thrill. She ended the conversation saying, "Let's sleep on it and discuss tomorrow." Later that night, when she went to bed, I sat in the living room. Her words kept circling in my head. I wondered what if she was already cheating, and this was her way of covering the tracks. And even if she wasn't, what if she had already made up her mind that to cheat regardless of what I said? In that case, my no wouldn't change a dang thing. She would go ahead anyway, except she'd do it behind my back. That thought scared me more than anything. I'd rather know than be blindsided. So I came up with the idea to maybe say yes and see what she was really up to. I wanted to see the extent of her lust, but it wasn't a decision I could take lightly. Saying yes meant giving her the green light to destroy the foundation of our marriage. I needed perspective, and there was one person I trusted for that. Mona, Brenda's closest friend. She's nothing like Jackie. Where Jackie is loud, flashy, always trying to be the center of attention, Mona is calm, collected, almost regal in the way she carries herself. I've always respected her. She's been single for years, devoting herself to her job and taking care of terminally ill father. She's the kind of woman who doesn't waste words, but when she speaks, it's always sensible, grounded. I've seen her give Brenda solid advice in the past. I hesitated at first. Was it appropriate to go behind Brenda's back and talk to her friend? Maybe not. At that moment, I felt like I had no choice. This was about my marriage and I had to do something. So I texted Mona. "Hey, I need to talk to you about Brenda. Maybe it's not right to reach out to you like this, but I feel I have to." She replied quickly, "Go ahead." I called her. For a few seconds, I almost hung up, but then her calm voice on the line pushed me forward. I told her everything. She was silent through most of it. Didn't sound surprised, almost like she already knew. When I finished, she sighed and said, "I figured this was coming. Jackie has this habit of propagating her lifestyle onto everyone. That's why most girls in the group don't like her, but for some reason, Brenda got fascinated." My intention was not to discuss my marital problems with her, but to see if she already knew something which I didn't. I mean, women share a lot of stuff with their girlfriends than their husbands. Came out, Mona did know some stuff. She hesitated a bit before saying, "There's something else. A few months ago, Brenda told me Jackie's boyfriend came to pick her up from the gym. He saw Brenda and was physically attracted to her. He openly flirted with Brenda, and Jackie even encouraged her to try it out with him, to see how it feels. She told us about it. The other girls and I told her flat out not to get into this nonsense. She agreed on the surface, but I had a feeling she was still considering it." Hearing that, I felt like the ground shifted under me. So Brenda had been sitting on this for months, maybe longer. Jackie and her boyfriend had already tested the waters. My wife had entertained the thought enough to tell her friends, and if Mona suspected she was still considering it, then maybe Brenda had already crossed the line. I thanked Mona for her honesty. She just said softly, "Be careful and lawyer up immediately." That conversation sealed it for me. I started contemplating my move 2 days later. Brenda brought this up again. Without sounding rehearsed, I agreed too calmly. "Fine, let's try." Her face lit up. I asked her if she already had someone in mind. She didn't even hesitate and said, "Yes. Jackie's friend's attractive. He often comes to pick her up from the gym. I want to try it out with him." And that was it. My suspicion was confirmed. She was already cheating or had lined it up long ago. My marriage, in my mind, was over. Still, I kept my calm. I asked her, "Okay, what about me? Who do you think I should start with?" She smiled. I'll never forget that smile, and said, "You can try with Mona. I think she always had a soft spot for you." That was the moment I felt disgusted down to my bones. She was ready to throw her own friend at me like bait, just so she could be around with other men guilt-free. And she had the audacity to say it so casually, as if it was a generous offer. I smiled and told her not to worry about me, that I'd figure it out myself, and she should go enjoy her experiment. That was enough for her. Since then, she's gone unhinged, partying out late at night, coming home in the early hours in the morning or not at all, acting like a teenager set free after curfew. Meanwhile, I've been documenting everything. I hired a lawyer. Thankfully, I had a prenup signed before marriage. All my premarital properties, the house, the rental properties, the inheritance from my parents are protected. I did it back then to avoid financial ruin in case of divorce. Never thought I'd actually need it. Maybe that's the reason Brenda never talked about divorcing. She knew she won't get anything. She was pushing the open marriage idea so hard because this way she could cheat without consequences. My lawyer is working on building a case while I'm staying low-key and planning my exit. So here's my message to anyone who brings up the topic of an open marriage out of nowhere. Know this: they've already cheated, or they've made up their mind to cheat. The request isn't the start, it's the cover. Update 1. Sorry for the late update. I know it's been a while. Give it a read if you're interested. TLDR, my wife insisted on opening the marriage and offered me to take her friend. Read to know how it went down for her. Like I mentioned in my first post, I agreed to open the marriage for Brenda knowing that she was already cheating. Meanwhile, I was lawyering up. I immediately shifted my bed. Moved to the other room. It wasn't dramatic. I simply carried my pillow and blanket down the hall. It took her 4 or 5 days to notice that I had moved out of the bedroom. How would she know when she spent her nights in someone else's pants? One night, she came home early and didn't find me in the bedroom. The next morning, I came out of the guest room when she asked, "What's this? A tantrum?" I kept my tone flat. "I need some privacy." That was it. She blinked, looked at me for a second, then shrugged. She didn't argue or chase. She was too giddy in her new little world to care about where I slept. Moving into another room wasn't about punishing her. It was about protecting myself. In my own space, I could breathe. I could think without being bothered by her existence. It gave me space to talk to my lawyer without her overhearing. I waited for his nod before proceeding with my plan. Didn't want to tip Brenda off before I knew my options. My lawyer and I went over the prenup line by line. My ancestral home, the rentals, and my inheritance were untouchable. The lawyer told me to keep documenting everything. Stay calm, don't confront. Just let her play her game. So I did. Stayed low-key at home, let her do whatever she wanted with her body. I watched her instead. Her absence from the house night after night. We barely talked. I saw the kind of woman she was. I would have never known her if I hadn't agreed to open the marriage. She was freely living her experimental life. My silence must have looked like consent to her. In reality, I was just building my case. And in the middle of all this, Mona became my buddy. At first, our conversations were cautious. I didn't want to drag her into drama. Every time I felt like I was drowning, she threw me a line. Not out of some lustful motive, but just because she listened. She had this calmness in her voice. She didn't feed me bitterness. Didn't say, "See, I told you so." She just listened, then responded with something measured. She let me finish without cutting in. She'd say things like, "I don't know how you're holding it together, but it shows your character, and you're handling this like a gentleman." She reminded me that I wasn't crazy for valuing loyalty, that wanting one partner, one life, wasn't old-fashioned. Gradually, our bond deepened. I'd call her on my way home from work, sometimes sitting in the car long after I parked, just to finish the conversation. Most of the talks were around my failing marriage, or work, or her father's medical condition. One day she confessed she admired how I loved and cared for Brenda all these years. She calls me a gentleman, and every time she says that in her polite tone, I blush. Seeing me getting awkward, she often calls me that in a fun way. Says the smile suits me. Nobody had called me that in years. I felt so light with her. Our friendship wasn't about lust. It wasn't even about love yet. It was about respect. Two people recognizing each other's decency in the middle of chaos. We met for coffee a couple of times, then brunch and dinner. For people guessing that we were sleeping, no, we didn't. A few weeks back, I offered to cook for her. By the way, I'm a really great cook. I preferred home-cooked meals and prepared dinner for Brenda all these years. Everyone in her friend circle knew this. Once she told me she wanted to taste my recipe, so I invited her over, made pasta with meatballs and garlic bread. We were eating and chatting about our day when Brenda walked in from one of her F sessions and saw us at the table. She smirked, leaned down to Mona, and whispered something before heading upstairs. Later, Mona looked at me with an uncomfortable smile and said, "You know what she told me? Hope he's satisfying you." Hearing that made my stomach turn. We hadn't even kissed yet. That was Brenda's mindset, laid bare. Filthy, transactional, projecting her own cheapness onto us. Mona shook her head and said softly, "That's disgusting and inappropriate." I nodded, but inside, I burned. Brenda had reduced 8 years of marriage to a crude joke. I patiently waited for my lawyer's nod, and yesterday when I got it, I informed Brenda flat out, "I'm filing for divorce. You should start looking for a place." She was blindsided. She actually laughed at first, like I was joking, followed me in the house and said things like, "You're kidding, right? Are you angry about something? Aren't you getting enough fun? Isn't Mona enough? If not, I'll get you other hot ones." It made my blood boil. She thought what I had with Mona was the same as her sweaty escapades with strangers. I screamed at her to stop bringing down Mona. She wasn't the kind of person who would sleep with another woman's man just for fun. She sighed, "But I see you having fun with her." I snapped at her that it wasn't her business what I do with my life. She calmed down and said, "What's the problem then? We're both enjoying life. You've got Mona, I've got mine. Isn't this working?" I would have given her the perfect answer if this were the earlier case. Now, in Mona's company, I have learned to be calm and composed. I confronted her. This open marriage thing is not for me. I'm a one-woman man, and that woman isn't you anymore. She snapped. "Then why did you say yes to it?" "You trapped me," I replied. "I knew you were cheating on me when you pitched the idea of open marriage. I'm no fool. What's the point of saving something that has already been ruined?" She was stunned. I added, "Don't compare your lust to what I have with Mona. We have mutual respect and a genuine bond. We aren't effing around." Her face crumbled for the first time and asked, "Do you love her?" I paused and replied, "I don't know yet, but I know I don't love you anymore." From then on, the house became a battlefield of glances and unspoken things. She tried to act unbothered. She's staying out late more often, coming back drunk, and laughing louder over the phone than before, pretending she's happier than ever. Well, good for her. I'm just waiting for her to leave the house so that I can breathe peacefully. Thanks for engaging on my post. We'll keep it updated as things progress. Brenda really tried to pull a fast one on you, didn't she? Pushing an open marriage, offering you her friend like it was some kind of prize, all while running around like nothing mattered. Meanwhile, you kept your head, lawyered up, protected your assets, and stayed 10 steps ahead. She's out there partying and thinking she's winning, but she couldn't be more wrong. If it was you, how would you react? Let us know in the comments below. And thank you for joining us today on Our Space. Be sure to like and subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on our next video. Stay tuned for part 2.